Howling winds cut through the air as a lone knight travels past a valley of fossilized remains until their empty eyes finally see it, the fading town. They leap down into the king's path. At the end is a massive stone door, but it's weak enough to be beaten down. On the other side is the town of Dirtmouth. The knight approaches its only resident, an old elder bug. The elder bug welcomes the weary traveler and explains that everyone else has disappeared into the caverns below. How a once great kingdom beneath Dirtmouth, called Hallownest, still draws bugs in. But the sick air has turned everyone mad. Despite hearing all this, like all the others before them, the knight descends into the depths below and enters the Forgotten Crossroads. They quickly find themselves in a large, lonely room. In the middle of that room is a moaning and groaning grub that doesn't seem to care about the knight one bit. So they thought it was best to leave that sad creature be. Heading east this time, our hero runs into the potential former residents of Dirtmouth. As the elder bug said, they have gone mad, an attack on sight. The knight has no choice but to put them down. Continuing on in that direction led to some sort of temple. Inside, the knight is greeted by a fellow traveler. He introduces himself as Quirrell and mentions his obsession with uncovering mysteries, like the great stone egg before them. Quirrell notices its warmth and the unique air it gives off, finally admitting to having been drawn down here as well. As their new acquaintance takes in all the mystery, the knight moves on and continues exploring, when they run into a husk guard. Even though it was much larger than our hero, it was just as mindless and easily falls. It seems to have been guarding a grub child. The knight decides to free it and returns to the crying one from before. Turns out the grub was a father and gave some rewards for the safe return of their child. There were a ton of empty nests, so our hero knew to keep an eye out for more. Going south into the crossroads led to a cartographer who went by the name Cornifer. He loved exploring the world and couldn't resist charting the unending kingdom of Hallownest. But Cornifer won't be mentioned every single time the knight finds him. Just know that without the cartographer's help, our hero's journey would have been an absolute nightmare, and that at every region, Cornifer proved himself to be an invaluable ally. The knight continued to explore the forbidden crossroads, finding some unexpected greenery, but this armored bug wouldn't budge. These spiked walls were quite spooky, and this crumbling floor just wouldn't give. So they returned to Dirtmouth and visited Cornifer's shop as he suggested. His wife Iselda sold the knight a quill and compass, and back down they went. Thanks to their new tools, the Gruz Mother was found. It wildly slammed around, leaving itself wide open. With the Gruz Mother out of the way, the knight entered a hut. Inside was a little guy whose mind seemed foggy, but thanks to our hero, this little bug was able to fight it off. He introduced himself as Sly, Dirtmouth's very own shopkeeper, and decided to head back home. The only thing left unexplored was this ominous-looking icon, and with all the other paths cut off, the knight had very little choice. After 3 knockdowns, this maggot met its demise and dropped to the city crest. The area right next to it was the home of the snail shaman. He sensed that something had drawn the knight to Hallownest and offered his help, giving them the vengeful spirit. After waking up, a gate stopped the knight from leaving, and wouldn't open until a beast was taken care of in the snail shaman's home. They tracked it down, and used their newfound ability to blast it before it could coil up. The snail shaman was grateful for the help, and just as he said, the gate opened. He left our hero with one final message: to have faith, and whatever it's looking for will find them. That beast was an elder boulder, the same kind as the one blocking the path from earlier, so the knight knew exactly where to head to next. With it out of the way, the knight entered the green path. Going deeper in, our hero encountered a mysterious cloaked bug, who fled as soon as they got close. The knight felt the need to follow them, but she was a nimble one. Our hero got a little lost and ran into a warrior locked in heated combat with a Vengefly King. This fly was clearly weakened by the fearsome fighter, as it had no will left to fight. But he was furious. The knight took the kill from him, Zote the Mighty. Zote shoot away our hero, else he draw his nail. And so, they continued in search of the mysterious cloaked bug. Instead, they found their first stag station. After figuring out to ring the bell, the last stag was awakened and stretched his long legs. The stagways were a system of tunnels throughout Hollowness that made it easier to get to and from other stations. For now, our hero would get a quick rest on the bench and continue their search. The knight finally caught up to the mysterious bug. She told the little ghost not to take a step closer, that a terrible thing has awakened and she could smell it in the air. She knows the knight's origins and their intentions. Hornet would not allow it to go any further. The knight barely managed to fend her off, and again she fled. A bug looking not too different from the knight left behind the Mothwing cloak. And after picking it up, a vision overtook our hero. Would it seek to break the seals? They cannot be undone. Let us sleep, little shadow. Return to your darkness. Allow us our peace. Soon the knight woke up and made his way to the final stretch of the green path. Quirrell was inside, resting, pleased to see his fellow adventurer. He was tending to his own weapon, and was concerned for the knight's old nail. Our hero decided to go back to Dirtmouth for a quick rest, where they ran into Zote. He did not seem to remember the knight, and reintroduced himself, Zote the Mighty, and bragged about how he slaughtered a ferocious flying beast. With that, the knight was ready to head back down. Bordering the green path were misty caverns filled with bubbles, uoma, and uma. The knight had entered the Fog Canyon. This area proved to be quite deadly, and they made their way to safety as soon as possible. The explosive jellyfish forced the knight into the Queen's Station, where Quirrell happened to be admiring the sights, even though the station was no longer in its prime. Thankfully for the knights, there was a bench nearby. Now that they were fully rested, our hero continued on. The Queen's Station was a breakpoint between the Fog Canyon and Fungal Wastes. Everything here moved sluggish, so navigating them went smoothly as long as they avoided acid pools. But suddenly, the ground started shaking. Luckily, it was just another friendly face that introduced herself as Cloth, and that she was looking for a nearby warrior tribe to test her strength. Cloth asked the knight to stay alive so that they may cross paths again. Soon enough, the knight would find the Mantis village. Maybe this was the tribe Cloth was talking about. Yes, it definitely was. But with a Mothwing cloak, the knight adjusted to their fighting style. Speaking of which, these Mantis warriors were guarding a valuable treasure, their very own Mantis claws. It allowed the knight to jump from wall to wall, which took them some getting used to. Before heading even further down into the Mantis village, the knight spotted Quirrell yet again. Quirrell told them that the Mantis tribe fights because of their lethal traditions, not because of the spreading sickness. Such traditions would produce strong leaders, and Quirrell again questioned how the knight would fare with their old, rusty nail. He mentioned a nearby nailsmith in the old capital of Hallownest. The knight followed Quirrell's suggestion and found a sign that pointed to that very city. Our hero used their newfound mantis claws to reach the city gates. At the end of the bridge was a statue of a great knight, which perfectly fit the city crest, and the gate rose. Despite having its bridge drawn and a city lockdown, that didn't seem to stop the infection, and the former guards blindly attacked. Naturally, Quirrell was found in deep thought, admitting that the pull of this place was strong. While he was hesitant to proceed, the knight jumped down into the City of Tears. Hornet suddenly appeared. Again we meet Little Ghost. I underestimated you. You've seen beyond this kingdom, and so your resilience is born of two voids. You shall know the sacrifice that keeps Hallownest standing, and if you want it to continue, seek the grave of Ash. This is a memorial to the Hollow Knight. In the black vault above, through its sacrifice, Hallownest lasts eternal. While our knight thought about everything they just learned, a bunch of discarded nails caught their attention, leading to none other than the nailsmith, who was more than happy to offer their services. He also said if the knight were to return with some pale ore, their nail could be made even stronger. With the city gates closed behind the knight, our hero was lost. But before their mind went, they noticed this little ledge, which led to other towers in the city. Zote popped up again and said, "Watch where you're going. I've had a miserable time trying to keep dry. I'm Zote the Mighty. If I decide that I'm going to stay dry, that's what's going to happen." The knight let Zote dry off in their lonesome while they rested on a bench, before finding a simple key and stumbling their way into the Soul Sanctum. In this tower, there was only one direction to go, and that was up. The bugs here were tricky. With their soul powers, they could teleport, but still were no match for our hero. And at the top of the Soul Sanctum was the Soul Master. Slicing down the Soul Master let the knight consume the Desolate Dive. This made it light work to get back down the tower, and now that they were at the bottom, the simple key was used to reveal the royal waterways. But it was far too dark to go any further. This was the perfect time to use the nearby stag station to return to Dirtmouth. The knight checked out Sly's shop, who had a Lumafly lantern for sale. It's also been a minute since the knight spoke to the Elderbug, who mentioned the magnificence of the mines east of Dirtmouth. And just like that, our hero got distracted once more and made their way to the Crystal Peak. The knight climbed the mountain slowly but surely, avoiding the beams fired off by these crystal crawlers. Again, they ran into Quirrell, who started to acknowledge the knight's strength. After completing a crucible of conveyors and crystal beams, they consumed the Crystal Heart for another useful ability. They were able to launch themselves to the opposite end of the Crystal Peak, unlocking an elevator that led straight to Dirtmouth. But the exploration wasn't done yet, and our hero fell into complete unknown territory. The knight stumbled across a strange shrine, which read, "To protect the vessel, the dreamers lay sleeping." Monomin, the teacher, in her archive surrounded by fog and mist. Lurian, the watcher, in his spire looking over the city. Hera, the beast, in her den amidst the deep darkness beyond the kingdom. Through their devotion, Hollownest lasts eternal. A vision, just like the one in the green path, overtook the night, and the voices came. What compels its climb out of the darkness? What compels its return to this sacred kingdom? A call from beyond the seals? Our duty holds. It must be cast away. Fade away, little shadow. The knight awoke in an ethereal realm, stuck on a floating platform. But another spirit seemed to guide them elsewhere. It said, "What a terrible fate to cast you into this space. Will you accept their judgment, or take this weapon and cut out of this forgotten dream?" Our hero didn't hesitate and took hold of the dream nail. Welcome back to the waking world by the seer. She explained that the dreamers were the ones who tried to seal the night away, but even those beings couldn't hide from the dream nail. Together, the seer and the knight could restore its power. But in the meantime, the knight was now completely and hopelessly lost. After stumbling around in the dark and taking care of some lesser Molochs, Cloth was found hiding in fear. She said, "My friend, I'm ashamed to say I was hiding. If you didn't come by, who knows what would have happened. I must take strength from your example. I look forward to our next contact. You'll meet a warrior with courage to match your own." Not too far from Cloth was some pale ore, the rare material the nailsmith told our hero to find if they wanted to improve their nail even further. The knight continued to wander aimlessly into the heart of the ancient basin. The enemies here were pretty weak and the land was just as barren, so they felt safe to continue on. A sealed door with a strange mark blocked the way forward, but there was an alternative path that led to the broken vessel. With yet another bug that looked like the knight out of the way, it was able to consume the monarch wings, which now allowed them to jump in midair. On the eastern side of the ancient basin were the palace grounds, but there wasn't much to see here, and the dream nail didn't seem to work on the strange creature. Our hero had strayed so far from Dirtmouth. The trek back would be a challenge of its own. But thankfully, they uncovered a hidden stag station. Riding on top of the last stag, they returned to the surface. So much time had passed since the knight first arrived at Dirtmouth and ventured into the Forgotten Crossroads. They had become far stronger, and now the infection has spread. They needed to pick up the pace and start finding the dreamers, but our hero didn't feel strong enough. Pale ore from the ancient basin was brought to the nailsmith. And from it, a channeled nail was forged. The smith asked for 2 more of this rare mineral to make the nail stronger still. With this weapon by their side, the knight decided to go to an area completely untouched. They headed back to the fungal wastes and landed in the deep nest. Going west from their landing zone was a failed tramway, and with it, a tram ticket. Our hero continued exploring and ran into Zote yet again. "What are you doing, you clumsy little oaf? You almost struck me. If you did that, that would have been the end of you. I am Zote the Mighty. Be gone." And as usual, they left Zote be. The knight ran into another bug that looked like them and followed it. Followed it right into a trap set by the vicious Nosk. It wasn't for nothing though. Nosk was hiding a precious pale ore. And an even better reward was found in the companion Quirrell, sitting in a steamy hot spring. Quirrell asked that the knight join him for some time, and so our hero did just that. After their short rest on the other side of the hot spring was a tram. This one looked like it was working. The tram ticket slotted perfectly, and just like that, it was active. The knight rode all the way to the kingdom's edge. It was an area of canyons, blanketed in ash. As the knight climbed up, bodies rained down from above. And as usual, our hero got distracted. These discarded shells were traced back to the Colosseum of Fools. Zote the Mighty was being held. Fools! Did you ever consider that being trapped in this cage was precisely what I intended? I am Zote the Mighty, and as soon as I draw my nail, Life Ender, your laughter will turn to terror. Leave me be, you lowly worm. I must rest before my great battle. And as always, the knight moved on. They knew Zote the Mighty was more than capable and had spent enough time dilly-dallying. The elevator west of the Colosseum led all the way back to the City of Tears. Finally, after being mindlessly distracted again and again. With all their skills and abilities, they easily vanquished the creatures dwelling in the labyrinth of pipes and tunnels. But would its protector, the Dung Defender, have anything to say about that? The Dung Defender was defending Isma's Grove, where the Tear of Isma was hidden. The knight could now swim in acidic waters. Our hero had been collecting dream essence and wanted to As a reward for helping the seer restore some of the dream nail's strength, the knight was rewarded a pale ore. The knight had everything they needed to find and take down the dreamers. With the Tear of Isma fresh on our hero's mind, they searched for the archive shrouded in fog and mist. That could only mean it's somewhere in the Fog Canyon. It must be that large building in the middle of an acid lake. And sure enough, Quirrell was standing outside. I can't help but feel familiarity. Something stirs in my mind. I can feel it calling. Dare I head in? The knight, however, did not hesitate and went straight into the teacher's archive. Once they reached the inner chamber, the mighty sprung from the acid pool to defend Monomon the Dreamer. Even with all the progress our hero has made, somehow they couldn't pierce Umu's defenses. Everything looked all but hopeless.
Kasa! 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 Kasa!
Did she call you too then? The teacher sought to store the kingdom's knowledge. To save Hallownest, she willingly became a seal, but enacted an additional protection. She called me here to reverse that protection, all in aid of you. For diversity, a seal. A world forever unchanging. The seals must break. The madam's life is extinguished, and with it, her seal breaks. It's a heavy thing you attempt, but I've seen your prowess up close, and she too believed. Be on your journey, and allow me rest. With the deed complete, I feel my age. With Quiro looking so exhausted, the knight finally remembered his warning back in the Mantis village. Our hero had a stronger nail, and made a mad dash to challenge the Mantis leaders to bounce back from his struggle with Umu. After that battle, the knight decided they were worthy of improving their nail, and used the nailsmith's services once again. The ore from defeating Nosk and helping Asir combined to forge the coiled nail. Since the knight was already in the City of Tears, it was time to find Lurien the Watcher in his spire overlooking the city. Our hero must have been so exhausted and weary from their travels. They saw two locked doors and eventually fought their way to a lever. But after the switch was flipped, they were confused why this one door didn't open. Our hero decided to go instead to the Deep Nest in search of Hera the Beast amidst the deep darkness. Following their narrow tunnels led to the distant village. It was a large web-filled cavern with the giant cocoon building at its center. Inside there were bugs who seemed to avoid the infection. They urged the knight to sit and rest. These benches always proved to be quite comfortable, so the knight did as they asked and sat and rested. Our hero awoke, trapped in webbing, but was right to listen to the helpful villagers. They were brought straight to the dreamer. For brood, for child, give all for her. She was called Hera the Beast, but everything she did for her. We do not choose our mothers, or the circumstances into which we are born. Despite all the ills of this world, I'm thankful for the life she granted me. It's quite a debt I owed. Only in allowing her to pass and taking the burden of the future in her stead can I begin to repay it. Lurien was the last one remaining, and this time, seeing the door was opened. The entrance brought our hero to the Watcher Knights. They guarded an elevator that went all the way up to Lurien the Watcher. For King Beloved, to sleep, to serve, bonds must remain. Lurien took part in the sacrifice out of duty and love for the king, but loyalty wasn't enough to stop the final seal from being broken. With the Dreamers defeated, the knight could finally return to Dirtmouth, and so too did Zote the Mighty. He even brought back a trophy from his triumph in the Colosseum of Fools. Zote owed his victory to his personal philosophy, the 57 Precepts of Zote. Our hero listened to all 57 philosophies in preparation for his final battle. After taking in all the information, they were inspired to conquer the Colosseum as well. And was rewarded a pale ore. On their way back from the Colosseum, they took a little detour and unexpectedly found Quirrell at the Blue Lake. Again we meet, my short friend. Here at last, I feel at peace. Twice I've seen this world, and though my service may have stripped the first experience from me, I'm thankful I could witness its beauty again. Hollow Nest is a vast and wondrous thing, but with as many wonders as it holds, I've seen none quite so intriguing as you. My flattery returns only silent stoicism. I like that. I like that very much. Incredible. And our hero rested with Quirrell for the last time. In honor of Quirrell, the knight wanted to craft the strongest nail. There were only a handful of areas left unexplored. At the top of the crystal peak was Hollow Nest's crown. And at this old yet grand statue was another pale ore. It was also a lifetime since our hero visited the Grubfather. During this journey, the knight had rescued as many grubs as they could. The Grubfather made it rain, with a big tip being the final pale ore our hero was looking for. Back at the Nailmaster's hut, The nail was reforged, as strong as it could ever be. The pure nail. And the nail master stepped outside for the first time. With a pure nail forged, my work in this lifetime comes to an end. My only remaining desire is to see and feel the nail strike true. I beg you, cut me down. As my final moment in life, I want to taste the blade's exquisite edge. After all this time, after all this toil, haven't I earned it? The knight was ready. The Hollow Knight was defeated. Our hero absorbed the infection and sacrificed themselves to become the new seal inside the black egg for the rest of time. There had to be another way. After all, the knight had done so much. Our hero deserves better. While they were sitting in the temple of the black egg, the knight thought back to what Hornet had said in the City of Tears. So they made their way to the kingdom's edge, where they found an old caterpillar named Bardoon. He explained the kingdom's edge was actually the grave of a worm, and its death brought forth the kingdom of Hollownest. The falling ash was actually its molt. Bardoon went on to explain that he fled there to avoid the infection and that the bugs lost their minds due to the light. Our hero learned so much from him. What else was waiting for them to be uncovered? In the farthest reaches of the kingdom's edge, the knight faced a fateful encounter. Hornet was waiting. So, you'd pursue the deeper truth. Prove yourself ready to face it. So strong. But could you raise your nail once knowing its tragic conception? Then do it, Ghost of Hollownest. Burn that mark upon your shell and claim yourself as king. Just as Hornet said, the knight headed onward into the cast-off shell, where they were marked by the king's brand. The first time our hero was in the ancient basin, they came across this ancient door, one that couldn't be opened, but it had the same mark on it as the king's brand. Locked and hidden away at the very pit of Hollownest was the abyss. Shades swarmed the night, and dark tendrils lashed out, but at this ocean of nothingness, there stood a lighthouse. Inside, the knight was able to turn it on and stop the sea of tendrils from lashing out. On the opposite side of that dark sea was a bowl overflowing with void, and our hero dove right in, absorbing the shade cloak. Much earlier in their adventure, the knight had explored the Queen's Garden, with not much to show for it, except for meeting up with Cloth, who is now ready to prove herself. They also found this shade gate, finally having the ability to pass it. Turns out traders from the Mantis tribe tried to hunt something down and traced it back here. Cloth proved her courage and sacrificed herself helping the knight uncover one of the kingdom's secrets, the White Lady. One arrives, far it walks to find me. It is true that you were awaited. No, perhaps that's inaccurate. True one like you was awaited. I have a gift, held long for one of your kind. half of a whole. When united, great power is granted, and on the path ahead, great power it will need. The weakening of the vessel I plainly feel. Only two obvious outcomes there are from such a thing. The first is inevitable, regression. All minds relinquished to that plague. The second, replacement. Usurp the vessel. Its supposed strength was ill-judged. It was tarnished by an idea instilled. But you are free of such blemishes. You could contain that thing inside. The King's Brand and the White Lady were all connected. The final piece of the puzzle had to be found at the palace grounds, where this fallen king's mold lay. Its shell resembled that of the King's Brand. Throughout their journey, the knight had released dream warriors from being bound to this world, but couldn't pierce this one's mind. Maybe the seer had some answers. The time has come, the dream nail, and you as well, wielder. It is time for you to both awaken. No dream can hide itself from you now. You can peer into the darkest places. The folk of my tribe were born from a light. Light similar to essence. Similar to that powerful blade, though much brighter still. They were content to bask in the light and honored it, for a time. But another light appeared in our world. A worm that took the form of a king. How fickle my ancestors must have been. They forsook the light that spawned them, turned their backs to it, forgot it even. But the memories of that ancient light still lingered. Until all of Hollownest began to dream that forgotten light. But what's done is done, and so am I. It is time for us to be forgotten too. Don't remember us, wielder. Don't honor us. We don't deserve it. To fully uncover the secrets of Hollownest, as well as their lineage, the knight needed to traverse the White Palace. The final pieces of the puzzle, these mysteries were well guarded. What waited ahead was nothing short of a nightmare, suffering and pain. It's as if the path to the throne room was one final test. Whoever made it through would find the corpse of the Pale King. From him, the second piece of the white fragment fell, and the two halves combined to form the King's Soul. Soul of worm, soul of root, heart of void. Perhaps now, the White Lady had more answers. Such strength, such resolve, such dedication. Is it more than simply a vessel? I almost feel like once again I'm in the presence of my beloved worm. If its curiosity wills it, it should seek out that place where it was born, where it died, where it began. There was only one area that could possibly match that description: the mountain of shells at the bottom of the abyss. Even deeper into the shadows and the darkness lies a large black egg. The knight struck it with their dream nail, and their forgotten memories returned. No cost too great. No mind to think. No will to break. No voice to cry suffering. Born of God and void. You shall seal the blinding light that plagues their dreams. You are the vessel. You are the hollow knight. After everything the ghost of Hollownest had just learned, is this kingdom even worth saving? They could just stay here and let the light consume all. But our little knight burdens themselves with the fate of the world and stands strong. It was time for the knight to return to the temple, this time with Hornet outside the Black Egg. The path is open, one way or another, an end awaits inside. I won't be joining you in this. That space is built to sustain your likes. Its binding would drain me were I to join. Don't be surprised. I'll not risk my own life in your attempt. Though if the moment presents itself, I'll aid as I'm able. Ghost of Hollownest, you possess the strength to enact an end of your choosing. Would you supplant our birth-cursed sibling, or would you transcend it?